right now we are to the point, now that the case is pretty much together, we need to make this one head into two. So right now I'm just going to pull the studs out. The exhaust studs, we'll need them later. Get the intake studs out. Won't need those because we'll be welding in the intake pipe. I'll probably leave the valves in there until I get it cut. And there's some washers still stuck in there with number 2 Permatex. So we've got this head that was in good shape, looks to be. Now the other head, something that got in there and dinged it all up, so we'll use it for spare parts. Because when you cut this down the middle, you need to cut this section off another head so you can weld it on there and actually make it look like that on both sides. Right now we just need to get this one separated into 2. Well, my original plan was to leave the valves in place, but this head is of the size that I can't get a fence on the side. If I try to use a guide to slide it through there, it's going to be off the table enough that it's probably not going to be straight anyway. So what I'm going to do is mark it here and here with a square and just eyeball it and cut it in half. Problem with that is the square, when I needed to get it in the center, is hitting the valve spring. So I'm going to take the valves out, get them out of the way, and then we'll try cutting. There we go. I think those keepers were going to give up. I definitely need a better tool to do this. This thing I use on my LS because they have a hump on the keeper, and that holds the deal right in the center. Well, these are flat and recessed, and it's sliding all over the place. Plus, these valves have 3 keeper grooves, so they don't want to slide out. Amazing, the LS can have 1 groove and be just fine. I just need to remember that that's push rod tubes toward me and the valves setting that way I get them back in the right holes. Well, that actually went better than I planned. I did, just as soon as I started cutting, I moved my line over a little bit. But it came out just fine. See here, there's not a whole lot holding those 2 pieces together, so it was real easy to cut. And we'll be welding that up, putting a pipe coming out of it. That side there is a little bit close to the push rod tube, but remember we have to put another piece off the other head in there welded in, so that's not an issue. This side, same deal there for the port. She's real close on the fins as far as being totally even. And then your section here, where the actual combustion chamber's at, about right down the middle, or real close. So sand them up a little bit here, trim that, weld that on, then you end up, you got your rocker here. When you put this in, you've got to drill another hole here to give the rocker 2 points of contact so it doesn't try to pivot. A lot of stuff to do to the heads, but at least this will be a little easier, I hope, to weld than the magnesium. Although it's still dirty and nasty and old casting. But another thing that we have to do on these So I have to turn this and cut that out to fit those bigger cylinders. Done a little bit of cleaning, a little bit of soda blasting on the head here. Need to get it in the lathe. I think this side here looks parallel to this. So hopefully I can mount this to my plate. And I think we'll be able to turn this out to fit the larger cylinder jugs. First, I need to get this stud out that holds the rocker arm assembly. And you probably can't see it, but it goes through down into there. So I'm going to double nut that up and try to pull that out. Oh, look at that. I really figured that would be in there super solid and not be able to get it out. I didn't even need any heat. All right, now I'm going to take these over and see if I can't fit them in the lathe. All right, boring on the cylinder's going really good. Got it mounted to the plate. The mount's a little sketchy because I just put one bolt through one of the push rod holes and screwed it to the plate, but it is flat against the plate, and it really, I could not move that cylinder at all to get it aligned. So it's holding really well, making shallow cuts, slow speed. It's doing just fine. The only issue I've noticed so far, and it's not a problem with cutting it, but right in here, there's a pretty good worn spot where the cylinder has pushed into the head surface. And there's some little pitting right here where something's hit it. Sorry, I'm not focused, I don't think. Yeah, you can see that groove there on that side. And toward what would be the top of the cylinder is smooth. So I'll have to do a cleanup cut. Once I've got this bored out, I'll have to do a cleanup cut across here, get that leveled back out, which will raise the compression slightly. But I'll probably put it all together and see how it goes. If we need to, I can always put a spacer under the base of the cylinder. The main thing is this dimension here has to be less than the dimension here. So this will bottom out against the head, because they don't use any kind of gasket in there. It's just this up against the bottom of the head and seals it. And that's why it's kind of dug in there. Yep, I'll go back to cutting. And by the time I get this done, I need to have this needs to be about 10 thousandths bigger than the end of that cylinder. Give it room to expand and contract, whatever it needs to do as it heats up. But 10,000 seemed to be the magic number that most people recommended. All right, according to the calipers, I bored that out to 10 thousandths over what the cylinder is. And as you can see, it got into the bolt holes there, which was totally expected. So let's see if the cylinder fits. Perfect. And you can see down in there you still have the gap, so it hasn't bottomed out. When I say bottomed out, this part is obviously bottomed out against the head, but this hasn't bottomed out against it, which is perfect because that's where it needs to seal. So right now, I need to go in and clean up this surface. Well, that's a pretty big gouge there at the bottom. It's a pretty big gouge right there, but it's got to be cleaned up. So we'll see. I'll clean it up, put it together. If I had to pull the cylinders back off, put a spacer on underneath later to lower the compression, we'll do it. Right now, I just want to get everything to fit together. And there we go. It's bored out. Went in and faced all of this to where it doesn't have the big gouge in it. Of course, I'll go back and round all this stuff now. But that's smooth. Cylinder fits in nicely. So I'm happy with it. So that's all we're going to do for right now. Tomorrow I'll get the other head and get it down to this point, and then we can start doing the rest of it. Got to weld in my intake tube, got to weld another, well, I got to cut and weld a piece here, got to make the piece for the rocker arm. A lot of stuff left to do, but that was a big step, getting it cut in half and getting it bored to fit the cylinder. Until next video, thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.